What's good, everybody? Now, unfortunately, there's two major things that suck about the Indian fitness scene. The first is the crazy use of steroids, and the second is the lack of passion amongst gym trainers in India. And both these factors contribute to people having wrong ideas about correct fitness. Remember, whenever it comes to something fitness related, you need to understand the science of it first. Now, fitness science is for naturals. It's for people who've not done steroids. Now, here's the thing about steroids. You need to understand that if you end up doing steroids, if they're in your system, the environment inside your body changes. The whole process of putting on muscle mass becomes much easier. Now, here's the thing. The people who do steroids, whatever training methods and whatever diet plan they follow, they will get some kind of results. And because they've got results through that particular training or diet plan, they might try imposing it on other people as the ultimate form of training because it's worked for them. But there's a huge difference between someone who's natural and someone who's done steroids. For the steroided up person, whatever you do might end up working. But for a natural, you need to stick to fitness science. And this brings me to the second point, the lack of passion amongst Indian trainers. Indian trainers are in the fitness business mainly for the business of fitness. Now, don't get me wrong, there are trainers who are in this business for the passion and love of fitness, but a majority of Indian trainers are just in it for the money. Now, chances are that you've heard an Indian trainer tell you not to lift heavy weights so that you don't become bulky. They tell you to lift light weights in a higher rep range for a ripped body. Science says the exact opposite. But if you try telling an Indian trainer this, so to answer this question about heavy lifting or light lifting, first you need to understand the science of weight training. And the science of weight training is all about numbers. As a trainer, when you're training someone, it's all about controlling the number of sets, the number of variations, the number of repetitions you give that person. The kind of numbers that you select for that person as a trainer will determine how your client's body grows. And obviously this applies to you yourself as well. You can play around with numbers and those numbers will have different effects on your body. And mainly when we're talking about heavy weights and light weights, the most important number is the number of repetitions you select per set. But you gotta keep in mind that visible results are visible only in the long term. When you do a particular kind of workout or a particular rep range for a prolonged period of time, that's when you'll see the effect of that rep range on your body. Now, when you're talking about heavy or light lifting, you shouldn't be giving importance to the weight you're lifting. Instead, the weight you're lifting should be according to the rep range that you want to hit. So focus more on the rep range and select a weight such that you're able to execute that weight in that rep range. So your answers to your heavy lifting and light lifting questions lie in the rep range. One of my earliest videos was a detailed scientific look at what different rep ranges do to your body. So make sure you check that out if you want to know the detailed answers. But in today's video, I'm just going to go over these concepts super briefly. Now, depending on the rep range you select, there's three kinds of effects you can have on your body. So there's three kinds of rep ranges. So the first rep range we're going to talk about is the higher rep range. This is anywhere between 12 to 20 reps, and for this rep range, you got to select a slightly lighter weight. Now, the effect that this has on your body is that when you execute a set with 12 to 20 reps, when your body recovers, it recovers by filling that same damaged muscle fiber with sarcoplasmic fluid. So what happens is, if this is your muscle fiber before the set, after you damage it, when it repairs itself, it's filled with sarcoplasmic fluid and it expands. And when it expands, the muscles grow in size. This is called having sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Your muscle is increasing in size because of the sarcoplasm. So this is primarily for people who are trying to put on some amount of size, and by the amount of size, I do not mean bodybuilder size, I mean size just for aesthetics. If you want to look great, this is the kind of rep range you need to work in terms of weight. The second rep range we're going to talk about is the low rep range. Now this lies anywhere between 1 to 6 reps, and you got to select a heavy weight to execute this rep range. Now the advantage of working in a lower rep range is that it helps build strength. So this does a lot for how strong you are, but this doesn't do a lot for the aesthetics or how bulky you become. If you only work in the low rep range, you'll end up getting super strong, but you won't get that buff. And the third rep range is a hybrid of the other two rep ranges. It lies between 8 to 12 reps, and for this particular rep range, again you need to select a medium weight. Now in all my past weight training science videos, I keep stressing on how if you're a beginner, this is the kind of rep range you need to hit because it's giving you both strength and size. But in saying that, keep in mind that these aren't hard and fast boundaries. If you work for strength, you will put on some amount of size, and if you work for size, obviously you will put on some amount of strength. But a hybrid rep range should be your protocol if you're a beginner to gymming. Before you go to a slightly more advanced form of training, you should work on your basics. Get both strength and size. But for the rest of my bros and broettes, if you've been gymming from 6 months to a year, it's not as simple as just selecting that hybrid rep range and expecting results from that. Now here's what happens. In gym slang, we have this term called beginner's gains. When you're just starting your weight training process, it's very easy to put on muscle mass. You put on a lot more muscle mass in your first year of gymming than you'll put on in the rest of your life. The longer you gym, the slower your gains get. The more you need to work for those gains. And this is where the concept of progressive overload comes into play. Now, progressive overload means that if you want to put on muscle continuously, you constantly need to load your muscle more than it's loaded before. You constantly need to challenge your muscle. You need to give it more intensity. You need to give it a heavier weight to push, or you need to hit it with more reps at that same weight. That's the only way you'll progress, and that's the only way your muscle will grow in size or strength or whatever you're working for. So as an intermediate level gymmer, your main focus should be the concept of progressive overload. You constantly need to get better at the process of gymming. And this is why you should be playing around a bit with your rep ranges. Now, whether you're focusing on strength or whether you're focusing on size, you gotta understand that both have a carryover to the other. If you work on your strength, it'll help with your size. And if you work on your size, it will help with your strength. So you need to constantly play in the two rep ranges. So playing around with your rep ranges. To understand this concept better, let's take up an example. So suppose there's someone whose only concern is bodybuilding. He's just concerned about growing his muscles in terms of size, and strength isn't really a big deal for him. So most gymmers who don't embrace fitness science, if they're one of these people, what they'll do is that every single week, suppose they're working their biceps. For a bicep curl, they'll take a 5 kg dumbbell for 20 reps every single week. Now eventually they will be able to graduate to a 6 kg dumbbell for 20 reps, and by doing so they are progressing and they are putting their bodies through progressive overload. But this whole process is a little slow and it's not very scientific in terms of fitness. So that's case 1, where our bro's only working in that higher rep range with lighter weights, where he will progress but the progress will be slow. Case 2 is where once in a while he takes up low rep work with heavy dumbbells and focuses on building his strength. Now what happens is when you focus on building your strength in a lower rep range with heavier weights, it's putting your body through something it's never been through. It's putting your body through myofibril hypertrophy, as I spoke about earlier. Now in sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is what happens in the first case when you only focus on bodybuilding, that one single muscle fiber is being filled with fluid and it's expanding. That's how you grow. But in myofibril hypertrophy, what's happening is that in that one single muscle fiber, there are filaments that are added in that same amount of volume. So that same fiber is just becoming thicker, it's becoming stronger, it's becoming denser, and you are becoming stronger in the process. Now what this means is that when your body undergoes strength training, it's kind of like a shock. So your body goes, damn, this is like something new, I'm not used to this, so I might as well become stronger. So say in this one workout where instead of taking that 5 kg dumbbell for 20 reps, he takes up a 15 kg dumbbell but only pumps out about 6 reps. Now by pumping out those 6 reps, he is getting some amount of myofibril hypertrophy in his muscles. And that little bit of increase in strength has a carryover to his bodybuilding training. So the next week when he goes back to working in a higher rep range, what happens is that instead of lifting 5 kg for only 20 reps, he'll be able to lift 5 kg for 25 reps. Or he'll be able to lift something like 8 kgs for 20 reps. So basically he will be progressing, but that's thanks to the strength work he's put in that one workout. Now obviously it isn't as simple as this. It's not like you do one strength workout and it'll have a carryover. This is a long-term thing. So think of the level of your aesthetics and the level of your strength as two ceilings. Now if you only work on increasing one ceiling, you will progress, but the progress will be slow. So instead work on both the ceilings. If you work a little bit on your strength ceiling, that little bit of improvement that you've got in terms of strength will have a carryover in improving the speed of progress of your bodybuilding side of the training. Okay, all this science is super cool, but what does this mean for you? Should you be lifting heavy weights or light weights? Now the answer is that it's completely up to you. You need to figure out what your goals are in terms of fitness. If you're only concerned with bodybuilding and how you look, then focus more on the high rep training. Similarly, if strength is your priority, focus on low rep work with heavy dumbbells. Once in a while, take up high rep work with light dumbbells, but primarily your focus should be on the heavy weights. Now, I respect the fact that everyone's got their own preferences, but as a fitness coach, it's my job to tell you what's great for long-term fitness. So personally, what I do is that I focus on both the strength aspect of things and the bodybuilding aspect of things. All my workouts have a bit of strength work with heavy weights and it's got a lot of bodybuilding work as well because I'm concerned with how I look. Focus on strength as well as bodybuilding. So in all your workouts, where you start with the compound movements like your bench press, your squat, your deadlift, do them with heavy weights. Your focus should be to improve your strength. And once you've worked for your strength, you can move on to all the lighter weights and the bodybuilding style things. Remember, this is giving you both the benefit of a great looking body and functional strength. Remember, a great looking body has no significance if it's not strong, and similarly a super strong person isn't as impressive if he's kind of fat. Okay guys, and I want to end the video by saying two very important things about heavy weights. Remember, even when you're lifting heavy weights, your form is the most important thing. If you don't maintain correct form, you're going to end up getting injured. And the second thing is, whenever you haven't done anything, whenever you haven't had the experience of doing something, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of lifting heavy. In terms of health, in terms of strength, and in terms of overall gains and how you look, heavy lifting is one of your best friends. So make sure you consider taking it up. Hey guys, so that was the video for today. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. So if you liked today's video and you're more interested in learning about the science of weight training, make sure you check out my video on the science of weight training. I feel like if you're a lifter, I've spoken about concepts that you should definitely be aware of. Every single lifter should know about everything I've spoken about in that video. So make sure you check it out. Either way guys, if you want to follow my personal fitness journey, follow me on Instagram at BeerBiceps, on Snapchat at ranveer.1693, and my Facebook page is facebook.com/BeerBiceps. So until next time guys, from BeerBiceps, see you.